All right. So, uh, as the title says, I'm talking about Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I'm a little late because my house didn't have internet for a little bit there, so I really couldn't upload anything. So yes, I am late, but with one of the good things I guess about being late to the recording or late to upload is that I can kind of talk spoilers now because it's been enough days, I guess, that everybody should have seen the movie. Who were really gonna go see it. I say that most of us like hardcore fans are gonna go like day one. There are some people who trickle in um like a week or so later. But given the fact that the movie has already hit $1 billion, basically, I think a lot of us have went to see it. So I'm just gonna talk about it a little bit and give my thoughts on it. First of all, it was a great movie, amazing. What can I say? I mean, Tom Holland knocked it out of the park. I think that it's this movie pretty much cemented. I was always giving Tom praise. I think for his job as Peter Parker and Spider Man. I think I've said it on this channel before. A few years or some years ago, I always say that, and I guess this was before Tom really got started good. But I always said like Toby was the best Peter, Andrew was the best Spider Man, and then Tom came along, and even a couple years after Tom came along, I was like, he might be the best of both. And this movie like solidified, yes, Tom is actually the best. He's the best Peter. He's the best Spider-Man. He, like all around, he's the best. So I don't want to use the word perfect, but I think he's the closest to perfect as you can get in terms of like a live action adaptation of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Now, when it comes to like the Peter Parker side, particularly when I used to say that Toby was the best, after having read more of the comics, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. But that's a video for another day, and I am gonna talk about that. But we're just talking about Brand New Day right now because a lot of people have had opinions on Brand New Day. Most of it's been good, but you have those people who are like, well, I mean, it's not Spider-Man 1 or Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi movie, so it's good, but it's not that. And it's like, I got a video for y'all too, because there's no reason to be talking about the Raimi movies to be real. But anyway, we're talking about this right now. So I think that right off the bat, they did a good job with this movie in jumping right into Peter's life without all of his people knowing who he was. The letter that he wrote at the end of No Way Home and that you hear in the trailers for this movie, it plays a big role actually. Just one letter. It's amazing, how big of a role it plays in this movie. But he does read out the entire letter in the beginning of the movie, and you kind of, as you see from the trailers, he does kind of watch on Instagram or whatever to see how Ned and MJ are doing. But uh, if you if you're if you're really talking about a Spider-Man movie where Tom fully gets to be Spider-Man, no help from anybody, um, no mentorship per se, and he's literally pretty much his own man, and he's his own man. He's making his own decisions and everything, which he did at the end of No Way Home. But when I say his own man, he's not leaning on anybody, right? He's not, like I said, no mentorship to ask for help. So I think that it's a seamless transition from him when he was like in the Homecoming trilogy or the Home trilogy to where he is now. It's like a seamless transition. No Way Home served as a movie I think that really he grew up in that movie. People say that he grew up pretty much with this one, which he did, but I think that the last like hour of No Way Home like did like a fast forward growth for his character. It was like a fast forward button on his growth as a character or maturity. But again, seeing how he operates as his own man, as his own Spider Man, if you will, it was really cool to see. How he made his own path, if you will, in terms of being a hero in New York. You have the montage of him facing all the villains and all the stuff he did because it's basically 4 or 5 years between No Way Home and this one, and like I said, you got to see that he became pretty much a hero that New York loved. He got the key to the city and everything. But all the while, of course, he's pretty much a loner. He's basically Spider-Man full time. And I think a few years ago I had made a video. I think I made a what if video. Kind of hinting at that myself because I think we all knew that was probably going to be what was going to happen, but he didn't. He doesn't become like he doesn't become mean. He doesn't become mean or anything or violent. He's just, and nor does he really become depressed. That's the funny thing. Like I think there's a depression there, but he just spends all his time being Spider-Man, and that's really what causes his change in the movie. Which is different. I thought that he definitely was gonna it was gonna be like the other situation. I was really hoping it would be the other, but it wasn't. It basically boiled down to him spending so much time being Spider-Man that the spider part of his DNA started taking over more, and he was the human part because he wasn't having like normal human interactions with people he cared about per se. The human part kind of started taking a back seat, if you will, and that's an interesting take, I guess. It's pretty much the exact opposite of what happened in Spider-Man 2 with Tobey's Peter, because he wasn't spending more time being Spider-Man than Peter, but he got uber depressed mainly because of Mary Jane, but also because of just, I guess, stress in life. But Tobey lost his powers, whereas Tom actually kind of his powers. He didn't. I guess I shouldn't say he gained. Well, he did gain more powers. He got like organic webs, but his powers strengthened. I'll say that. I actually like that take. I did like that direction. That they've included Jean DeWolf as his confidant in the police force. In recent days or in more recent times, the confidant has been Yuri Watanabe, like in the Spider-Man games. But people do forget about Jean DeWolf, and it's cool that they've added her now. With Jean DeWolf, of course, also you gotta wonder. That's just like with the Amazing Spider-Man movies that had Gwen in it. If you know anything about Spider-Man lore, then you know that Jean DeWolf does not have a happy conclusion to her story. So it does beg the question: what's going to happen to Jean DeWolf in this set of movies? Tom hadn't had the black suit yet, and when what happens to Jean DeWolf happens, I believe in the comics, I believe Spider-Man is wearing the black suit, and I can't remember if it's the actual symbiote or if he's just wearing the cloth black suit, but I'm pretty sure he has the black suit on when that happens. So it'll be interesting to see if they go that direction and see. And I believe Tom, I definitely, especially if he has the black suit, I bet Tom will knock that mug out the park. Like, I bet that's going to be amazing to see. Not that you want something to happen to the character per se, but I think that, from an acting standpoint and narrative standpoint, I think they'll do a good job with that, especially after having seen this movie. The Punisher did a damn good job as always. Frank Castle was cool to see on here. John Bernthal did a good job. The connection that Tom and John have, because they were both casted in their respective roles basically at the same time, so they audition and practice together. They have a good chemistry. They have a really good chemistry, and it's not something I guess you'd expect to see when it comes to Spider-Man and Punisher bantering the way they do, but they do a good job. I think that especially the beginning where they're referencing the Staten Island thing, and it's kind of like one of those things where like Budapest with Natasha and Clint, and then also like what the wise Thor crying thing in Deadpool. It's another one of these incidents that happen that they comment on that only the characters know about, that we as the audience probably will never find out about. But they mentioned Staten Island is one of those things that kept on coming up, and it irritates Punisher because Spider-Man is saying that he saved Punisher, and Frank is like whatever. So that was cool. And then of course, I guess I get to the elephant in the room, which is the biggest spoiler of the movie. But um, the antagonist. You understand when I say this. There's a difference between the antagonist and the villain. Okay, so when I say the antagonist of this movie is basically Jean Grey, understand she is the antagonist. She is not a villain. Um, and that's her purpose. Like in the movie, you can see it in the trailer. She's using her powers. She's taking over people to get things accomplished. And part of the reason she's doing that is because she's obviously trying to remain anonymous. Um, but yeah, Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, and Sadie Sink, I'm really proud of her as an actress because Sadie, obviously, most of us know her from Stranger Things, and she did well, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, she did good in Stranger Things. I'm not gonna take that away from her. Like I say, I'm proud of her, and I guess that shouldn't be to infer that she didn't do a good job then. But to see her in another realm, playing another role, a completely different character, she did a good job. I mean, I can see her as Jean Grey. Now, people are complaining about her actions, her methods in the movie. And my thing is this, because they're like, well, Jean Grey wouldn't do that because she does do some slightly nefarious things. Like, she does take over one person and she walks them into the street and they get hit by a car as she's leaving their body or their mind or whatever. That was kind of jacked up, yeah. It was. I'll admit that. But ultimately, I think what people are forgetting is that this is a teenage Jean Grey who has not been introduced to the professor. And a lot of people are like, Jean would never take over somebody and do this, or Jean would never do that. And it's like, y'all are talking about a Jean that's been taken in and trained and raised by the professor, essentially. And she doesn't know Xavier right now. So we're talking about a Jean who pretty much has like a loose cannon mentality because of what's been taken from her. And in that scenario, we don't know how Jean per se would act because she doesn't have the professor's guidance to reel her in and be like, hey, this is what we should do with our powers. This is what we shouldn't do with our powers. So I think that in and of itself is why it's okay. Not okay per se, but I understand. I can understand that take on Jean. But her like taking over MJ and everything, it was kind of, I don't know if sadistic is the word. It was kind of messed up when Spider-Man, had saved MJ or thought he was saving MJ, and marriage. Jean had already gotten to her, and then they have the moment where she kisses Peter only to trick him and say that, oh no, I was Jean the whole time or whatever. That sucked, but. And speaking of MJ, MJ and Ned's roles they're here, but I think they have a slightly, especially Ned, they have a slightly less, they have a slight lesser role than they've had before. MJ's role is bigger than Ned's, but obviously because they don't remember who Peter is, that's why. And I said that the note plays a big role in the movie, which it does, because after Spider-Man saves MJ, he takes her to Punisher so he can protect her while he's off doing what he's doing. And when he leaves to go deal with Jean again, he accidentally leaves a note. And so when he gets back from having defeated Jean and having her be taken in by the damage control, she finds the letter, and that whole sequence was really tough, right? Because she knows that he knew her at some point and her memories were taken. But by the same token, because her memories are taken, she has no recollection of not only her memories of Peter, but her feelings for Peter, and that's basically what she says. And that was a dagger scene, because I think regardless of what fans say, a lot of us real fans don't want Peter to be in pain or to be down and out. And that's basically kind of what this does, because it's like a lot of us do. I think a part of a lot of us wanting him to find his happiness again with her. I say a lot of us, not all of us, because a lot of people wanted him to move on from MJ. Me personally, I think that how I would have handled it, I would have probably, kind of like some people said, I probably would have introduced another love interest first, potentially, for this movie, and then had Mary Jane or MJ come back. I don't have a problem with them being back in this movie, but I think if I was writing it, I probably would have did it that way first, because I have no problems with MJ and him being with MJ, but maybe just for the sake of giving it a little space in terms of having it really sink. It does sink in that he hadn't been around them, but I guess for the audience, because a lot of the audience members were irritated that Ned and MJ were back. That's the average complainers. But anyway, yeah. So that was a dagger of a scene, but I think that she's coming around by the time the movie goes off. And then you talk about, and I didn't mention Scorpion. Scorpion was cool how they handled him, but Scorpion really wasn't Scorpion in the movie because Jean took over him. The Hulk sequence was really good. That's the first time we really seen the Hulk for real since Infinity War or Ragnarok, I think. And I think they've reset him back to how he was before the Professor Hulk thing, because when Jean was possessing his mind, he said she broke something in his head. So she broke something in his head, so that means that we're back to having Savage Hulk. So that whole sequence was really cool because you get to see how far Spider-Man has come and how capable he is as a hero, and I guess as a fighter too, because he was able to survive fighting the Hulk. Now, when it came down to it, he still had to talk him down, but still, you see how far he's come. And then again, of course, realizing that Jean actually was not the villain when he talked to MJ, and she mentioned how it was that, or how it felt when she was taking over, and he realized that he had been tricked, so he went to go save Jean at that point, and that sequence was really good. Now, I hadn't mentioned like the inhibitors, because he did make an inhibitor chip on it to put on his neck to kind of tone down the spider side of his power, so he could use his web shooters and stuff again, because the organic webs were like way more powerful than his regular webs, and he needed something to kind of tone it down. So he had made a chip for himself, but he also made a universal one for anybody with powers. And I forgot to mention that earlier, but that chip comes into play because that's how he pretty much subdued Jean. So he goes to go save her, and of course the hand, as you see in the trailer, they're standing in his way, because Jean finds out that the person who showed Jean how to use her powers was her sister. Damage Control kidnapped her, and then we find out that they took her out during experimentation. So Jean pretty much has a breakdown at that point, and her powers evolve further, closer to pretty much what Jean can actually do. And she freezes like a section of New York in like this telepathic pause, if you will. And so Punisher, he's extreme. He's like, you gotta take Jean out, right? That's his whole thing. Is like, Jean is dangerous. She can take over minds and everything. It's like, look, sorry, kid. He's talking to Spider-Man, but like, he's like, sorry, kid, but Jean's gotta go. So Spider-Man is trying to rush to save her from Damage Control and from Punisher. But while she's doing this, she manages to take over the hand, and Peter has to fight the hand, and they really get the upper hand on him. So that's when he takes the inhibitor chip off, and he really fully lets the spider side not take over, but he lets it, I guess, naturally do what it's going to do. So he manages to get control over it. So he basically has the enhanced abilities now with control over it. He beats the hand. He has this really nice moment with Jean where she gets into his head, and she kind of like with the Superior Spider-Man story, he sees his memories, and then it changes his outlook on things. Same thing happens with Jean. So in Peter's memories, it's a memory with May, and it touches Jean. But in the midst of this, Punisher shoots a sniper round at them. Peter jumps in the way of it because of his spider sense, and then he goes down, and he's in critical condition. But Punisher takes him to the hospital. Jean uses her powers to, I think, keep him breathing and keep his heart pumping, I think, from a distance, and he survives. And so, that's the movie, right? And I think, like I said, they all did a good job. Every single person did a good job. At the end of the movie, I think Ned gets his memories back because of the handshake. But yeah, everybody, they knocked this movie out of the park, and it's really, obviously, recency bias is a thing, but just thinking about it over and over again in my head, thinking about the movie and everything that was in it, from the action sequences, from the swinging, from just the story itself. I think that this is probably my favorite live action Spider-Man movie now. And it's hard to top No Way Home for me, but I think it's because of what this did for Tom's Peter. And then also Tom's Peter, like, regardless of how you feel about the home trilogy, one thing you have to acknowledge is that we still have seen his Spider-Man grow up. We saw him as a teenager. We saw him going through high school, essentially, for the most part. And now we've seen him we're seeing him as an adult now. And that's not something you can kind of just brush off. That's, regardless of how you feel about the home trilogy, that's a cool thing to see, right? We've seen this character grow. We really have. And so I think that's another reason why I really like Tom's Peter so much. So yeah, I mean, go see the movie if you hadn't seen it. It's a 10 out of 10, even though, again, if you hadn't seen it and you watch this, I mean, you've been spoiled, but still go see it because it's good. And just, enjoy it, right? I'm not going to talk too much about some of the complaints I've seen about the movie. I might do that in another video. But, and also, I'm not going to mention the post-credit scene because I'm going to do another video dedicated specifically to that, because there's a couple different things that could mean. But yeah, that's what I thought of the movie. So you hit that like button, drop a comment if you have seen the movie. Let me know what your favorite part of the movie was. Hit that subscribe button for more, and remember, we have the high ground. Catch you later.